Shoot. Right. Wait. Die. Right. Left. 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 Right. Left. Right. Left. Left. Forward. Right. Left. 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 Right. Left. Right. Left. Right.
First year cadet classes, Marine Engineering, leader.
Junior Cadet Castro Antonio Raf LT, Marine Transpo, Assistant Leader.
Junior Cadet Castoreno Ronald P. Maritime Transportation.
Junior Cadet Kalantok, Marine Transpo, BSMT.
Senior Cadet Amon, Marine Transportation, BSMT.
Senior Cadet Aldos, Marine Transpo, BSMT.
Junior Cadet Benigno, Marine Transpo.
Senior Cadet Mailem, Marine Transpo, BSMT.
To further discuss our topic for today, now let's move on to the maritime law. Maritime law is often considered to be the branch of the jurisprudence that governs ships and shipping. Thus, law is said to be the maritime when it affects the business of owning and managing ships, port operations, crew employment, or other shipping activity. It is easy to observe that this concept of maritime law corresponds with the idea or shipping law. Let us assume that for a particular purposes, it is admissible to define a body of law, set of rules regulating a specific category of economic and social relations. However, when the discovery and development of new resources and uses of the sea is involved, as well as the needed to the protection and preservation of the maritime environment, the above-mentioned traditional approach cannot stand as a satisfactory solution. Consequently, there may be no possible way to formulate a comprehensive definition covering all rules of maritime provenance. For the purpose at hand, however, it would perhaps be true to describe maritime law as legal regulations governing maritime shipping and relevant activities, that use of the sea and exploitation of resources and the protection of the marine environment. The development of the maritime conventions is included in the work program of the many international conventions, mainly the United Nations specialized agencies and other institutions, such as the International Maritime Organization, also called IMO, the International Labour Organization or ILO, UN Conference on Trade and Development, UN Conversation on International Trade Law, and UN Law of the Sea Conferences. The Committee of Maritime International, which was created in 1897, registered considerable achievements in the uniformity of maritime law. So here we have our introduction to our report for today. Since its inception, the International Maritime Organization has recognized the importance of human resources to the development of the maritime industry and has given the highest priority to assisting developing countries in enhancing their maritime training capabilities through the provision or improvement of maritime training facilities at national and regional levels. So here we have our objectives. So this course is designed to update and broaden trainees' knowledge and understanding of maritime law and is firmly oriented towards rules and governing relationships incident to the merchant shipping considered as a transport activity. The main objective is to impart knowledge of the new and revised global laws, regulations, and standards concerning shippings, will serve as a comprehensive view of existing and pending international regulations as well as developments of relating on fields. Trainees will have a greater awareness of their legal duties and responsibilities concerning modern ship and cargo operations and will have a proper understanding of a sufficient and acquaintance with the general development process within the scope of contemporary shipping law. They will be better to able to make decisions related to the ship owner's obligations and liabilities and will be aware not only of the content of international regulations but also how to find the legal rules, how to find out if the rules have been changed and how effective they are, especially in changing circumstances. A subsidiary objective is to provide a foundation in maritime law which will form a basis for continuous learning to take account of changes will take place in this sphere. And further on in this video, we will have a soon learning about what is Article 32 and the Convention and the IMO Sulphur 2020.
The United Nations, in cases where they are administering authority for a territory or any contracting government responsible for the international relations of a territory, shall as soon as possible consult with such territory in an endeavor to extend the present convention to that territory, and may be at any time by notification in writing to the organization declare that the present convention shall extend to such territory. Present convention shall, from the date of the receipt of the notification or from such other date as may be specified in the notification, extend to the territory named therein. The United Nations or any contracting government which has made a declaration under subparagraph of paragraph of this article at any time after the expiry of a period of 5 years from the date on which the convention has been extended to any territory, may by notification in writing to the organization declare that the present convention shall cease to extend to any such territory named in the notification. The present convention shall cease to extend to any territory mentioned in such notification 1 year or such longer period as may be specified therein after the date of receipt of the notification by the organization. The organization shall inform all the contracting governments of the extension of the present convention to any territories under paragraph of this article and of the termination of any such extensions under provision of paragraph stating in each case that date from which the present convention has been or will cease to be so extended. Article 32, Territories. The United Nations, in cases where they are the administering authority for a territory or any contracting government responsible for the international relations of a territory, shall as soon as possible consult with such territory in an endeavor to extend the present convention to that territory, and may at any time by notification in writing to the organization declare that the present convention shall extend to such territory. The present convention shall, from the date of the receipt of the notification or from such other date as may be specified in the notification, extend to the territory named therein. The United Nations or any contracting government which has made a declaration under subparagraph of paragraph 1 of this article at any time of the expiry of a period of 5 years from the date on which the convention has been extended to any territory may be notification writing to the organization declared that the present convention shall cease to extend to any such territory named in the notification. The present convention shall cease to extend to any territory mentioned in such notification 1 year or such longer period as may be specified therein after the date of receipt of notification by the organization. The organization shall inform all the contracting governments of extension of the present convention to any territories under paragraph 1 of this article and of the termination of any such extension under the provision of paragraph 2, stating in each case the date from which the present convention has been or will cease to be extended. Conclusion. So, in our perspective, the reason why there is a limit on the cease and why does Article 32 is implemented, so usually the purpose of a convention usually suggests a meeting of delegates representing political assembly, usually implies a meeting for a settled or customary purpose as for discussion, legislation, or participation in a social function, and the purpose for Article 32 is, according to the theory of Andrew Guzman, if a country violates international law, other states may refuse to enter into future agreements, may demand greater concessions when entering into such agreements, or may lose faith in strength of existing agreements. A safe, secure, clean, and efficient international shipping industry is indispensable to the modern world, and governments all over the world have an obligation to create a regulatory framework that allows that to happen, and this will IMO's come in overall mission is to promote safe, secure, environmentally sound, efficient, and sustainable shipping. And we do this in two ways. First, we environmentally sound, efficient, and sustainable shipping, and we do this in two ways. First, we develop and adopt a global regulatory regime for shipping that embraces the highest practicable standards of maritime safety and security, efficiency of navigation, and prevention and control of pollution from ships. And second, we back this up with an extensive program of technical assistance and capacity building to ensure that one adopted the standards can be implemented evenly and effectively to ensure that no one gets left behind.
Good day, Cadet. Today I will discussing the IMO 2020 sulfur regulations. Achieving compliance. So we heard about the Article 32 and why does it has been implemented in our industry. But have you ever asked about how our planet Earth lately, and there is this term called climate change, which refers to long-term shifts in temperatures and weather patterns. These shifts may be natural, such as through variation in solar cycle. But since the 18th human activities have been the main driver of climate, primarily due to burning fossil fuels like coal, oil, and gas. So how does the shipping industry contribute to the global problem that we are facing right now, and how can we stop this kind of action in our industries? The environmental effects of shipping include air pollution, water pollution, acoustic, and oil pollution. Ships are responsible for more than 18% of some air pollutants. As for greenhouse gas emissions, the International Maritime Organization estimates the carbon dioxide emission from shipping were equal to 2.2% of the global human-made emission in 2012, and expects them to rise 50 to 250% by 2050 if no action is taken. Although in the movement of a given mass of cargo a given distance, ships are the most energy efficient method. The sheer size of maritime transport industry means that it has a significant effect on environment. The annual increasing amount of shipping overwhelms gains in efficiencies, such as from slow steaming. The growth in ton kilometers of sea shipment has averaged 4% yearly since the 1990s, and it has grown by a factor of 5 since the 1970s. There are now over 100,000 transport ships at sea, of which about 6,000 are large container ships. The fact that shipping enjoys substantial tax privilege has contributed to the growing emissions. In this space, we will talk about the IMO 2020 sulfur regulations. On January 1, 2020, a new limit on the sulfur content in the fuel oil used on board ships came into force, marking a significant milestone to improve air quality, preserve the environment, and protect human health. Known as IMO 2020, the rule limits the sulfur in the fuel oil used on board ships operating outside designated emission control areas to 0.50% millimiles, a significant reduction from previous limits of 3.5%. Within specific designated emission control areas, the limits were already stricter. This new limit was made compulsory following an amendment to Annex 6 of the International Convention for Prevention of Pollution from Ships. How significant is the reduction in sulfur oxides emissions? We have seen a substantial cut in the limits for sulfur content of fuel oil for ships operated outside designated emission control areas from 3.50% mass by mass to 0.50 mass by mass. There is an even stricter limit of 0.10 in effect in emission control areas, which have been established by IMO. The 4 ECAs are the Baltic Sea area, the North Sea area, the North American area, and the United States Caribbean Sea area. Around Puerto Rico and United States Virgin Islands, countries bordering and Mediterranean Sea, and currently considering the possibility of applying to designate the Mediterranean Sea or parts thereof as an ECA.
All fuel oil for combustion purposes on a ship must meet required fuel oil quality standards as set out in IMO MARPOL Annex 6, Regulation 18.3. For example, the fuel oil must not include any added substance or chemical waste that jeopardizes the safety of ships or adversely affects the performance of the machinery. Through 2020 and into 2021 to date, IMO has not received any reports of safety issues linked to VLSFO. Nonetheless, during 2020, an IMO correspondence group was established to consider fuel oil safety issues in general and consider the need for further mandatory requirements to ensure fuel oil supply meets the required standards and required quality. The report of the group MSC 102-6 is available on IMO Docs. The report will be discussed at the next IMO Maritime Safety Committee session, MSC 103 in May 2021. Prior to that meeting, the Subcommittee on Prevention of Pollution from Ships will further consider VLSFO fuel quality issues, including possible effects on black carbon emissions. Guidance on best practice for fuel oil suppliers has also been issued. The guidance is intended to assist fuel oil purchasers and users in assuring the quality of fuel oil delivered to and assured on board with ships, with respect to both compliance with the MARPOL requirements and the safe and efficient operation of the ship. The guidance pertains to aspect of the fuel oil purchase up to the loading of the purchased fuel oil on board. Regulations in the International Convention for the Safety of Life at Sea, or SOLAS, cover issues such as flashpoint. An international standardization organization standard specifies the requirements for fuels for use in marine diesel engines and boilers. ISO has issued a further standard, petroleum products fuels. Considerations for fuel suppliers and users regarding marine fuel quality in view of the implementation of maximum of 0.50% sulfur in 2020. It addresses quality considerations that apply to marine fuels in view of the implementation of the sulfur 2020 limit and the range of marine fuels that will be placed on the market in response. It defines general requirements that apply to all 0.50% sulfur fuels and confirms the applicability of ISO 8217 for those fuels. It gives technical considerations which might apply the particular fuels for the following characteristics: kinematic, viscosity, cold flow properties, stability, ignition characteristics, and catalyst fines. Additionally, it provides considerations on the compatibility between fuels and gives additional information on ISO 8217. What did IMO to do help ship owners comply with the 0.50% sulfur limit? To assist ship operators and owners to plan ahead for the 0.50% sulfur 2020 limit, the MEPC approved the various guidance and guidelines. 8. What is the carriage ban and how does it work? The carriage ban refers to the MARPOL amendment adopted in 2018 to prohibit the carriage of non-compliant fuel oil for combustion purposes for propulsion or operation on board a ship, unless the ship has an exhaust gas cleaning system. The amendment is intended as an additional measure to support consistent implementation and compliance and provides a means for effective enforcement by states, particularly port state control. As a result, carriage of fuel oil for use on board ships is now prohibited if the sulfur content exceeds 0.50%. Regulation 2.9 of MARPOL Annex 6 provides the definition for fuel oil. Fuel oil means any fuel delivered to and intended for combustion purposes for propulsion or operation on board a ship, including gas, distillate, and residual fuels. 9. Do small ships have to comply with the sulfur limit? Yes, the MARPOL regulations apply to all ships. Only larger ships of 400 gross tonnage and above engage in voyages to ports or offshore terminals under the jurisdiction of other parties have to obtain an International Air Pollution Prevention Certificate issued by the ship's flag state, but all sizes of ship must use fuel oil that meets the 0.50% limit since January 1, 2020. Some smaller ships were already using fuel oil that meets the limit, such as a marine distillate suitable for their engines.
Which government agency and private association were involved in the consultation process for accession? The following agencies have been consulted and have concurred in the proposed accession: Maritime Industry Authority, Marina; Philippine Coast Guard, PCG; Philippine Ports Authority, PPA; Filipino Ship Owners Association, FSA; and International Maritime Association of the Philippines, Intermap. Ship in and outside the country were deposit to the IMO Secretary General on April 24, 2018 and June 6, 2018 respectively. Conclusion: the International Convention for the Safety of Life at Sea, SOLAS, is an important international treaty concerning the safety of merchant ships. It ensures that ships registered by signatory states comply with minimum safety standards in construction, equipment, and operational of ships.
In May 2019, the Marine Environment Protection Committee asked the PPR sub-community to look into evaluation and harmonization of rules and guidance of the discharge of liquid influent from EGCS into water, including condition and area. To assist the discussion, a report from a task team established by the Joint Group of Experts on the scientific aspect of marine environment protection was submitted. This report contains the conclusion of the task team in relation to the available evidence on the environmental effect of discharged water from EGCS, as well as recommendation on the data, tools, and approaches that could be used of basis for conducting a risk assessment of the possible effect of discharge. Following discussion in the working group and PPR subcommittee agreed to recommend to the MEPC that its future work should look at evaluation and harmonization of rules and guidance on the discharge of discharged water from EGCS into the aquatic environment, including condition and areas. Why have some ports already banned discharge of wastewater? Some IMO member states have taken a precautionary approach towards wastewater discharge and have taken measures to limit or restrict discharge of water in their local ports and coastlines. States have the right under UNCLOS to adopt their own laws and measure to reduce the control pollution of the marine environment from ships in their ports, internal waters, and territorial seas. Where can I find out which ships have scrubbers or are using other equivalents? The IMO GISIS module on MARPOL Annex 6 includes a list of notification received from IMO member state in relation to Regulation 4.1 equivalent compliance method. You can view the database here. Conclusion: we must reflect to ourselves and the importance of our mother nature. This climate change won't just impact forests or coral reefs, or even people in far-off countries. It will affect all of us, from more extreme weather to increasing food prices. The creation and decreased opportunities to appreciate the natural world. People everywhere will feel its effect. These were IMO 2020 sulfur regulations, some into reduce our carbon footprint and save our seas.
Does the sulfur limit only apply to ship and international voyage? The sulfur oxide regulation MARPOL Annex 6 Regulation 14 applies to all ships, whether they are on an international voyage between two or more countries or domestic voyage solely within the water of party to MARPOL Annex 11. Are all types of scrubber allowed under IMO rules? Yes, so long as they achieve the same level of emission reduction. Regulation for MARPOL Annex 6 allows for administration flag states of approved equivalent any fitting material, appliances, or apparatus to be fitted in the ship or other producers alternative fuel oils or compliance method used as an alternative to the require that enable the same standard of emission control to be met. For reduction sulfur oxides, emission flag states have accepted and approved scrubbers, otherwise known as exhaust gas cleaning system EGCS, as meeting the requirements for sulfur oxide reduction. There is important to require in the same regulation an equivalent which says that in paragraph 4, the administration of the party that allows the use of equivalent shall endeavor not to impair the damage its environment, human health, property, of resource of thus of other states.
Exemption certificate shall not be valid longer than period of certificate to which it refers. A. Cargo Ship Safety Radio Certificate, 5 years. The Philippines has ratified to approve the sanction formally the 1974 SOLAS Convention in 1982, while the instrument of accession, the SOLAS Protocol 1978 and SOLAS Protocol 1988. What will be the effects of ratifying the 1978 and 1988 protocols in the Philippines? Through the ratification of 1978 and the 1988 protocols, the Philippines could reap the following benefits: strengthening of the Philippines performance as a flag state, stronger basis for promulgation of local rules for the Philippine domestic ships, single and uniform survey system and certification toll system of conventional Philippine registered ships, safer operations of Philippines flag.
SOLAS, the International Convention for the Safety of Life, 1974, currently in force, was adopted on November 1, 1974 by the International Conference of Safety of Life at Sea, which was convened by the International Maritime Organization and entered in force on May 25, 1980. It has been since amended. What is main objective of SOLAS Convention? The SOLAS Convention aims to specify minimum standards for the construction, equipment, and operation of ships compatible with their safety. Flag states are responsible for ensuring that ships under the flag comply with its requirements, and a number of certificates and prescribed in the convention of proof that this has been done. Control provision also allow contracting governments to inspect ships of other contracting safety. State if there are clear ground for believing that the ship and its equipment do not substantially comply with the requirement of the convention. This procedure is known as port state control. What are the certificates issued under the SOLAS Convention and their validity? First, passenger ship safety of 12 months. Cargo ship safety constructor certificate that will 5 years. Cargo safety equipment certificate that will last 5 years. Okay, sir.